Hey everyone. So today we have a very special guest. And like it's not every single day you come across somebody that built a movement. You have a lot of founders that built amazing companies. You have a lot of people that did amazing things. People that are full of charitable acts, people that do accomplish many great things. But over here I'm sitting with somebody, Avlesh, that built a movement. He built a place of not just an incredible company that's changing the world, but he built a movement in a place that he's actually changing people's lives. The people that he interacts and comes in touch with, his employees, a place of company satisfaction, a place that people are happy to come to work, a place that clients are happy to associate themselves with is a phenomenal, phenomenal thing. And I'm very excited, Avlesh, to have you on the show. I'm very excited for everyone to hear your story and for you to share your story so we can learn how to create movements ourselves. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Ephraim. This is indeed an honor, and I'd love to be of any help that I can. I must tell you that this is probably the nicest way I've been described in all these years. I don't deserve any of this, but thank you. The real work has been done by all these men and women at WebEngage who work incredibly hard to make it happen. And I don't, as I said, I don't deserve any of this. But thank you for having me. Look forward to be chatting with you.
My pleasure. So let's just jump right into it because, I'm sure we're going to have so many things to talk about and so many questions are going to come up. And let's jump right into it and let's start all the way from the beginning. Where are you from and, what your upbringing was like and all
that. Okay. I come from a very humble background. I'm 35 years now. In age. I was born in a very small town of North India. It's called Allahabad, and that's where I was born. My father, he was a doctor by education, and he was a businessman. Very different kind of businessman. One in the entire family. We come from a services background, and he's no more. We lost him when I was 10 years old. And it's been my mother who was taken care of me and my other two siblings, both sisters, younger to me. And I've grown up in the hinterlands of North, in states that are not known to produce good people. This is a place called Patna, which is the capital city of Bihar. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Indian terrain, but that's where I've grown up. That's where I've had my education. Very difficult growing up years, but yeah, we've survived all of this. And I did my engineering, which was from the school called Indian School of Mines, which was in another place called Dhanbad, in Jharkhand. And I completed my engineering in 2005. Did a job just out of campus. Didn't like it much. Tried to do a startup with a couple of folks in IIT Delhi. Didn't work out either. And then Burp happened, which was an incredible ride for almost 4.5 years. And after Burp got acquired, we started, some of the founding team members, we kind of ventured out and started figuring out what to do next. And one of my colleagues at Burp, who happens to be my co-founder now at WebEngage, we got together, we started figuring out what do we want to do with our lives. And in that journey, WebEngage happened. With WebEngage, it's been now 7 years and a little more than that. And we've done our set of learnings, unlearnings, pivots to get to where we have gotten to. And yeah, here we are. It's a story at least worth telling now.
Amazing. Wow. Amazing. So before we get into WebEngage, because that's me the focus, a lot of times you mentioned something very interesting. Your hard background, where you came from, unfortunately losing your father at 10, growing up in a place that was very difficult, and the struggles that went through over there. In our story of who we are people, in hindsight, we're able to see how all the situations that we went through really made us who we are. You know, made us the men, made us the women, made us the people that we become. And a lot of times, you know, we people in general, we try to run away from our past without realizing how much our past is part of ourselves, how much our past is the people that we become. So yes, we went through a hard time. You know, so it's an option of dwelling in the crap or actually moving forward and growing and learning from it. You know, and seeing that what you have done over there, you know, you went through this hard thing and you really like changed as an individual, as a person, and like took it and learned from it. It's such an inspiring lesson in itself that for myself and for everyone else definitely should take, that how just not to dwell in it and just move forward, you know, and take it all as a learning lesson at how to grow as a person. That's incredible. That's really.
Sure. No, thank you. And I think, you know, in this part of the world, I think there are many, many stories, you know, of battle-hardened people, not just entrepreneurs, but people in all walks of life. You know, this is a difficult part of the world to live in. Prosperity has I think, you know, wealth creation for that matter is a very recent phenomenon. You know, much of the wealth that got created in this country was limited to a very small set of people. And over the last 2 decades, you know, thanks to you know, a lot of liberalization that happened in the economy and the rise of entrepreneurship that subsequently followed, there was a lot of wealth creation, and you know, people in all walks of life you know, got exposed to a very different world by doing what they're doing. And you know, you look at their backgrounds. Most of these people, they have worked very hard to get to where they have. And I think the best times are what we're experiencing right now. Another 10 years, there'll be it'll be a very different economy. The per capita income is going to subsequently change, and a lot of thought processes around how people build their lives will also change. But if you look at the current set of people who have created name for themselves in whichever field they are, you will see a story of hardships, you know, almost everywhere. And you know, all of them are very, very inspiring. My story matches nowhere close to any of these, but happy to share. As I said, yeah, very happy to share with you.
That's amazing. You know, that story, I think, is what's amazing thing. You know, obviously, you know, building a startup is the most amazing thing possible, building a company. But the story of how a person goes through hardships and overcomes the hardships, you know, is what's the most amazing thing. You know,
Yeah.
that's what's incredible. So let's get right into it. So you obviously, so you had the whole experience through college, through starting a bunch of startups, a bunch of buddies in college, you're working for another company, and then you met your co-founders and then you had, where did the idea for WebEngage come from?
You know, so I've always maintained this, and I say this to all my other fellow founders and you know, people I get to talk to or advise. Ideas are way too many, Ephraim. You know, I don't think you know, there is any dearth of ideas that you could potentially work on. It's cliched, but you know, ultimately it's the execution and that focus to execute that matters. Most people lose track. In fact, just before the call, I'm actually writing a post. It's still in my draft. I've been meaning to finish it for a very long time. I'm writing this thing about boredom, right? About people getting bored. You know, it's a very difficult thing to remain focused for a very long period of time. You know, people talk about mission, vision, and you know, everything about how do you build, you know, for a long term. I believe it's a lot about you not getting bored of what you're doing. You still continue to enjoy what you're doing. You're equally passionate and deeply passionate about it almost every single day for the longest period of time. And I'm talking about tens of years, if not more. You know, it takes a very different set of skill set, and it takes a very different set of, I think, human being to be able to do that. And going back to, you know, why I'm saying this is, I don't think building things is hard. You know, you can create value. It's the focus that people lose. from that goal. You're very excited about it on day one. You get an idea, you look at it and you feel like, this is going to change the way things work. And believe me or not, when I was just out of birth, in fact, not even out of birth, I had my very first inbound VC request coming in. And I didn't even know what VC meant at that point of time. All I had was a nice, cute little project that I was running on the side. We call it Web Clipper. I'll not get into it. It's an idea that I started with, and I said, in less than a year's time, and then WebEngage happened. But at that point of time, I really liked the idea, and I still do, by the way. And I wanted to build. I was actually writing code and doing all that I could to reach out to the right set of audience to get feedback. And this VC back in the day, very famous one from Bangalore, reaches out to me on a cold email. I had no context. I had no idea about what a VC means. He wanted me to come over to Bangalore and meet him so that I could discuss what I was trying to build. I visited him. We spent almost the entire day. It was a Saturday, I still remember. And at the end of the conversation, he did offer me an investment, by the way, in an idea which I ultimately shelved after 12 months. We didn't money for different. He said something that has stuck with me all these years. I was very passionate about the idea. I was talking about it with so much conviction. That he really liked it. Of course, he liked it. And then he asked me this question about what could go wrong in this idea. And I almost got to the point of saying nothing because I believed in it so much. I thought it's just flawless. And I thought it was never thought before. And it was incredibly cool to kind of build. So he told me, after asking this question and hearing my answer, he said, Avlesh, I need to tell you, the world is inhabited by 6 billion people. The number used to be 6 billion back then. We're talking about 7, 8 years ago. So he said, the world is inhabited by 6 billion people. There's no way what you've thought of today wasn't thought of before. It just doesn't work like that. Somebody in some part of the world, somewhere, thought of this. I can give it to you in writing. I would probably not know the person, but I can tell you for sure that somebody thought of it. You need to find out why it did become a great business, a very large business. It may be the person's problem. Maybe the guy didn't have enough conviction. Maybe the guy didn't remain focused enough for a very long period of time to build it out. Maybe the guy just lost sight of the whole thing. Or maybe these things already exist and you don't know. Maybe somebody's already building it out and you have no idea. No matter what it is, please find that out. Because that's how you're going to shape what you think is flawless today. Because invariably in business, there is nothing called as flawless, right? In the long haul, there are so many things that happen and reality kicks in and you start seeing the world in a different way. So that thought process of saying, ideas are ideas. People get them all the time. And they don't really matter. What matters is how brutally and how ruthlessly you got about the execution, how focused you remained on that core thesis and kept building over a period of time, right? For you to build a large business. And that's something that I won't say it struck me at that point of time. 7 years down the line, it's something that remains with me to my core. I don't believe in ideas anymore. It's always about, you can always do a better X. However people are running their lives today, however technology is facilitating it, there is always a room for a better tech. No matter it's the world of, hardware, software, in the world of tech, there's always a better way of doing or solving a problem. It's a question of how big that problem is, how large it is. That's how you pick the problem. But there's always a better way of doing things. And, every idea is great and meaningful as long as there's a large audience for it.
Right. Wow.
That reality, I think we've stayed true to that core thesis. the previous idea, we very quickly realized it wasn't large enough. While we found it very cool, and we really very quickly also found about other people doing the same thing. We realized it wasn't large enough for us to say, we let's do this for the next 10 years of our lives. If we had to spend and invest the next 10 years of our lives, might as well do something large and meaningful. And in the process, create a lot of value for your customers, shareholders, investors, and for your own self. That led to WebEngage. The core idea of WebEngage was born at birth. A lot of our experiences at birth as developers, we saw that on a daily basis. We used to implement them on a daily basis, and we thought it was a large enough problem, for all online businesses to solve for. And then we kind of jumped into it. One thing has led to another. We have done our pivots. We have that idea has also gone through a bunch of transformations over a period of time, and I'm pretty sure it will continue to happen over the next few years as well. Very large addressable sort of market, and there are too many people looking for a solution to that problem. And we have our domain expertise and our ability to build for that problem. Right? So that's pretty much what it is. And everything else is learning on the way.
Wow, you just touched upon so many points. Wow, that's mind-blowing. So I want to go back to what you said in the beginning about your speech, your blog you're writing about boredom. So first of all, if anyone does not get a chance to read your blogs on Medium or on your LinkedIn post, definitely should. You have so many points of, so much knowledge over there. Going back from 2016, 15, you've been very quiet 2018, I have to say. You only wrote one post so far this year, but all your other posts have been fascinating. So much knowledge there.
Thank you.
In one of your posts, you write, you took a quote that says, "Commitment is overrated. Being consistent is a lot more important." And
That's
exactly touches upon your point, like you just mentioned to a certain degree, of sticking through an idea. We don't give enough credit to people that do something through completion.
That's right.
Doing something through completion is one of the biggest skill sets, one of the most amazing things to have, because we have, like you said, we get passionate about it. We get an idea, we go to VC, we go to an angel fund, we build it up. And after 2 months, like after a year, because we live in a generation that's all about, gratification, instant gratification, we're like, wait, there's no money coming in, no press wrote about me, no one knows about me, what the hell's going on? And I drop it. That's our generation now.
That's right.
So sticking things through and building something and pushing it through completion is such a valuable skill to learn, and having patience. Another thing you mentioned, and I think it's fascinating, is one of the reasons why we drop things, not just because obviously all this ego stuff and everything else, is passion. Having passion for what you're doing, even when the money's not coming in, even when no one's writing about you, even no one knows you, no one knows what you're working on even. But if you have conviction and passion about what you're working on, that's the most amazing thing. I mean, there's so many other things we could talk about, but you just mentioned, but let's get, get back into it. It's fascinating what you're talking about, So you got WebEngage. You obviously realized that Web Clipper was not going to work. You pivot to WebEngage. What were some of the early challenges and hurdles you had to overcome in the beginning days?
The usual, Ephraim, the biggest challenge that I think every early stage startup faces, they all revolve around, hiring great talent. They revolve around finding early adopters. And I'm purely talking, in the context of B2B startups. The B2C dynamics is slightly different. In a typical B2B setup, it's always very difficult to get believers, early believers, because the idea is always born from this thing of doing something a little bit better, right? And early on, it's hard to find takers. And that's where I think a lot of my learnings so between my other co-founder's name is Ankit, and both of us are engineers by trade. So our core DNA is to be able to build products, write code, build products. That's what both of us are at the core. But if not for this challenge of finding early adopters or early hires, I think I would have never understood and appreciated what sales really means. And today I look after the sales function, I look after the marketing functions. They kind of roll into me. My evolution to understand this concept of what selling is, it started because I had nobody, because I had no takers, right? Whether it's finding money from an investor or hiring people early on or finding early adopters on a product, right? Everything was a challenge. And I learned my sales skills per se because of that hurdle. If all of that had to come in easy, I probably wouldn't even know what sales means today. But my evolution, as I said, my evolution as a salesperson is largely attributed to just typical challenges that startup face. And I started to become a very different person. I started looking things in a very different light. When you're out there trying to sell your product or trying to sell your vision or your idea, you get exposed to a lot of market realities. You get exposed to people. I think most importantly, how people think, why they think the way they think. Most of the times, people, when they say something, they don't mean what they're saying. They mean something else. And it's just, and it's not that they mean to. It's not that they want to. It's just how human behavior works.
Right.
People behave differently in different situations. And my personal growth as an individual, I think it amplified because I started doing that for a living. Because I knew that if my startup has to grow, somebody has to do that dirty job. And between the two of us, it was chosen that it would be me, and I could continue to focus on building it out. And I was out there trying to sell to investors, to early adopters, customers, employees. Changed me a lot. And I think a lot of my learnings of human behavior, they have come in because I did that firsthand.
Wow. So like you literally, you had to learn it out of necessity.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't about you went to school. It wasn't about you wanted to do it. Just you had to do it you had to do it in order to survive.
That's right.
That's right. I mean, the best way to learn, but also as a startup, as anybody in life, not just
it's not glamorous, Ephraim. It's not glamorous. And you have to come to terms with the fact that you'll not be written about, you'll not be talked about, because it's not the nicest thing to talk about, right? You're going to struggle end of the day. So it's, as I said, right, it needs that skill set. It needs that ability to see beyond, the obvious. You don't fall for the trap of, so many people are raising money, or all these people are hiring so many great people. I'm not able to do anything. Why don't these people come to me? If you keep yourself stuck in that mindset, you'll literally be caught in that trap forever.
Right.
And your ability to not get caught into it and look beyond is basically what sets you up for the future growth.
Exactly.
You look beyond the obvious. You don't look at what everybody else is doing. You focus on what you need to do, and be vigilant about it. Be very diligent about it, and you have a very clear vision about your own self, about the company, and the kind of people you want to work with. As long as you're sorted about that, everything else is just way too much noise. You got to remain away from that.
So that was exactly about to be my next question. It was like, how did you keep that vision of hope? Hope and optimism, which is its relative cousin, are the two most important factors when it comes into to this. So how you obviously mentioned a little bit right now, looking beyond the scope, looking beyond the immediate factors of if the other company's raising money, other companies hiring great people, not getting recognized. But when you came home at night after a hard day in the beginning days of the startup phase, you came home at night, you're all burnt out, you got a bunch of no's. No one knew who you are. No one knew who WebEngage was. How did you keep that vision of hope alive on a daily basis? How did you ignite that fire that kept you going?
I don't think this categorization exists, but my reading of entrepreneurs has always been, and I picked this up from a very celebrated Indian founder. His name is Sridhar. He runs this company called Zoho, incredible company. And, what they've built is insanely beautiful. We were having a chat and this just surfaced. So there's two kinds of entrepreneurs. I guess there are many kinds of entrepreneurs, but they're the missionary entrepreneurs. The others are mercenary entrepreneurs, right? And these are two different ways of building a company. Very large sort of, VC funded businesses, essentially who follow growth in a certain way. The founders will usually be very mercenary in nature. And I really love and admire them. To be able to do that is absolutely another skill set altogether. There's another breed of entrepreneurs who are largely missionary. And in that setup, right, when you're a missionary entrepreneur, the core of who you are, the business gets anchored around it, right? So what the primary difference between the two, I think, is the time horizon. For the missionary entrepreneur, there is no sort of hard limit on time. It's not that I have to achieve success tomorrow. It's not about I have to do it in 5 years, 10 years, however you put that timeline. I'm not a proponent of either, but the point I'm trying to make is it's not, it's a very different way of building a business when you are driven by a purpose, when you're driven by a sense of purpose. And then everything else around, as I said, will appear to be noise because you'll stay true to the purpose that you started out with. I don't think you'll find Ankit online, so there's no way you can look him up online. But whether it's me or Ankit, it goes all the way back to our choices of who we are and how we live our lives. I think, at no point of time, any one of us in this entire journey, we have nothing to lose. We had nothing to lose when we began, right? And that, if you know it in your heart, you don't have any fear. You don't have a fear of losing or a fear of missing out or any other fear. Mm-hmm. When you're free of fear, you're a lot more freer to stay on course, right? You don't have liabilities, you don't have baggages, you only have one purpose in life. And you're not cluttered by what's going around you because you don't have fear. Somebody raised money, well, that's okay. In fact, you go and congratulate them and you tell them good luck. Somebody hired, some great key talent. Do the same thing. You don't have fear. And so on and so forth, right? I can extend it to all walks of life. But the key to I think, stay true to the purpose is to not have fear. And it's a hard thing to say, difficult thing to practice. But as I said, a lot of it is basically your own personal DNA, how you grow up, what kind of value system you bring in, and what is the larger purpose in life that you have. If you're clear about it, I think it's not a very hard thing. It's not a very hard thing to build in as a core value. We have no fear. I have no fear. I don't fear anything. And I'm, while WebEngage may seem like a 7-year journey, the way I look at it is it's a 35-year journey. It's something that has happened over 35 years of my life. And while I can't remember my childhood and I can't say any of that, I can't attribute to any of that, but I can go back to my college days and I can bring up so many anecdotal stories about how I would think and conduct myself in certain scenarios, and why I think those are core values, right? Why I think those are key values of who you are as a person. None of that has changed, right? It's I am who I am. You can't change it, and that basically defines what course you're gonna take over a period of time. So long story short, my advice is to not have fear of losing. Or for that matter, anything. If you start from that, I think everything else becomes easy.
Wow. You just blew me away. Wow, that was just so, you touched my core, like that message came in. It's such a powerful, powerful message. I'm at a loss of words. I'm at a loss of
Thank
words.
you. I'm glad you found it useful.
Wow. So,
But as I said, it's just belief system and value system. We have to have a core one. Yeah.
right. So we'll take that. So, from this belief system, value system, how did you create the culture at WebEngage? Because obviously, the passion is the most important thing, because, your first, now, WebEngage is 7 years. It's incredible. It's a massive team. But in the beginning stages, like you mentioned, everything you went through and getting rid of that fear, and overcoming those first early struggles, and the culture of a company comes from the founders. It's how the founders interact, how the founders act, and what they instill in their employees, and what they instill in the company. That's how the culture obviously comes about. So, right. How did you go with this passion that you had for not looking at the current, what's tomorrow, but looking 10 years down the line? This thing that you have, no fear of it. There's no fear at all. I'm fearless. How did the culture of WebEngage come about, and how did you instill it?
I can go on for hours talking about this.
I have to tell you, when I cut you,
this is a very touchy topic. Yes. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, when I checked you guys out on Glassdoor, the reviews that you have are just phenomenal. Seeing what every single person wrote, and if you go through the reviews, it's not so many. I mean, you should get more of them to write. It's only like 36 reviews, so people watching it should definitely go through it, and they can learn. They can see how each and every single individual employee, when they talk about WebEngage and Glassdoor, each one writes about the culture, every single one. And that's like I was going back to before originally. Like, you didn't just build a company, you built a movement. You built the movement that people are waking up in the morning, say, "Hey, I am happy to go to work today. I'm happy to stay late. I'm happy to get the job done. I'm happy to go through completion," because you built a movement. You built a tribe. You built something special.
Yep.
So I know, we have limited time also, and like you mentioned, we could talk about culture for hours, and we can talk about so many things for hours. So, but touch upon a few key pointers that you think that either an early founder or a current company that they could benefit from, and I guess either creating or implementing and all that.
So, okay, I think a lot of evolution personally for me also has happened while building this company. What you do to build and maintain your culture code with 5 people, with 20 people, with 50 people, and with 100 people, I think they're very, very different. And I empathize a lot with founders who have 1,000 people on their payroll, and they have to do it, maintain their culture. I can tell you, Frem, it's as you grow, it's one of the toughest things to do. When early on, when it's a small knit team, all of this is very easy. You work together, you eat together, you practically live together. So there's no sort of education, there's no training per se that you need to do, because it's all sort of one family. And as you grow, teams grow, hierarchy comes in, different people, different roles, different aspirations. It's very tough to maintain that one cohesive culture. And I don't think there is a definition. We often sort of mistake perks with culture. And coolness is all about perks, right? And I think the only advice I have here is not to mistake it for that. Culture is not about how much you can spend on perks, or what goodies can you bring to your people. It's always about keeping people at the center of your business. I spoke about this when we were 5 people. I'm speaking about this as we grow to 90, and I'll talk about this even when we grow to 500 at whatever point of time. We are a people-first company. We were from day one, and will continue to be, for as long as we exist. I don't just say it because I have to say it. It's a mission statement. It's one of the key principles that binds us together. We take a lot of time in hiring people, and the reason why we do that is I don't think it's about technical skills or any of the skills that we are hiring that person for, but it's a lot about making sure that the person is a cultural fit. And that's a tough job. That's a very tough job, because you have culture guardians who have to make sure that the person is a cultural fit. We have let go of many candidates from our hiring process, even when we ended up liking them a lot for the core skills that that we're being interviewed for. But yeah, no compromise on if anybody's in a state of doubt on the person being a cultural fit, we just let go. So making sure that you're hiring the right people, I think that's the first thing to do. Great people build great companies. There's no exceptions to that. You look around, you look at all great businesses, they were all built by great people. Inside the company, even today, I think every morning as I walk in, the first thing I go is I go around and greet 80 people, wishing them good morning, every single day without fail. I don't do it as a duty. It's just something that I feel like I should do. And I do that even today. I don't know if people like it or not like it anymore, but it's something that I just do it because I do it. I've done it ever since. I don't know if I can do this if we're 1,000 people. I really don't know. It'll probably be like the whole day gone just greeting people. But it's just certain things that you believe in and you do for as long as you can, and that you empower other people. We have a very minimal sort of hierarchical system here, very open reporting systems. People are pulled up for all the right reasons. We make sure that it's a culture of making sure that people are empowered to achieve what they've been hired for. And as long as I'm making you successful as somebody who works for WebEngage, the company will be successful in the long run. And we just focus on that. The managers focus on that. It's always about how can we make you success. Sometimes people succumb to pressure. There's always this thing about timelines. There's always this thing about going sessions and debates, and people have their own sort of views on those. But at the end of the day, the company runs on intent. The last piece that I'm going to talk about is making sure that the intent is clean. Right? If everybody in my company comes with a very clean intent and they know and they're aware of what they need to achieve, I think everything else is solvable. All those discussions, debates, roadblocks, they're easy to resolve as long as the intent is very clear and clean. So my job in this company has always been about making sure that we have people with the right intent. And as soon as somebody screws that up, we don't hesitate from showing them the door, because you cannot go wrong with intent. That's what defines us. That's what our culture is. You have to have the right intent.
Wow.
We've stuck to that, and I think everybody likes it. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you're inspiring me to come work for WebEngage. That's it.
Please do. If we need people, we need a lot of good people. So yes, please do.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Those keys you touched upon. So, how do you go about? It's like you mentioned. I was about to ask you, how do you, a lot of times, we keep the wrong employee intact, and you said that once an employee is not a proper culture fit, you have to get rid of them, because if they linger around too much, you have that toxic energy that they leave around that could be detrimental to everything they worked upon. And, it's hire fast, fire quick, and that's exactly one thing. And it meant a lot of the other things you mentioned. Another thing you mentioned, which is incredible, is this grooming the talent and helping your employees grow in their work and their personal life to accomplish their goals. Right. And that's a phenomenal thing. That one-on-one management, I guess the one-on-one, I don't know how you do it over there, meetings that, you go sit down in person and say hey, what's going on in your life? what are you working on currently in work? What are you working on in life? And how can we grow together? How could I make sure, like you said, you don't want to make, you question it, how can I make you successful? And that's amazing. Wow.
Efraim, the only key to that, right? And again, as I said, I try and simplify things at the company wherever I find them overcomplicated. This is a phrase, I don't know who I am quoting this from, but over communication never killed a business.
Right.
Under communication invariably does.
Right.
If I and my managers and everybody responsible for whatever they are responsible for, if they can maintain a very clear line of communication, and if they over communicate also in that process, it's absolutely okay. It's just talking to your people constantly,
right?
Making sure that they are aligned to the vision, making sure that they are aligned to the larger goal. And then everything else, as I said, if people have the right intent, if they are empowered with the right tools and the right skills, they'll do their job. Everybody loves to achieve.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, so after all this knowledge that you have now, what would you tell your younger self? What would you tell little 20-year-old Avlesh coming out of college, what would you tell yourself?
So many things. So many things. I've grown so much in life, learning things as we go. I think one of the things that I would really want to change in my younger self, I have become a very different person now. I used to be very impatient as a young Avlesh, and I would rather react to situations very quickly than spend time thinking over it. I would just spend time thinking, analyzing a lot more, learn about human behavior a lot more early, not conclude or decide based on immediate reactions or discoveries, but then kind of the ability to go dig deeper and learn a lot more before coming to conclusions. I happen to do that a lot more, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to learn as I grow even further. But I would love to have had that skill early in my life, where I was not impatient to come to conclusions and would have taken my time to decide things that I decided in life early on.
Right. Wow. That's just powerful. It's really powerful. That's a skill set that we all can learn. Everybody can have that. That impatience. Learn how to have more patience. So let's go. What books would you recommend to, what books do you enjoy reading? What books would you recommend to another entrepreneur, to another guy starting out, to everyone? What books have made an influential difference in your life?
I'm not a very avid book reader. I do read on and off depending on what I get recommended by fellow founders and some of my teammates here. But two that I really literally practice on a day-to-day basis. Well, one is more knowledge, but the hard thing about hard things. And this, a lot of that goes into what I was talking about: how to remain focused, how to do things for the long term. Not necessarily be short term. Not to have short term thinking in your approach, right? So that's one that I think I've read it so many times now. And a brief history of time. That's generally a book that I read often. Again, now was gifted to me by a fellow founder, and I've learned my art of simplification from that book. A lot of how I behave myself at work, trying to explain things to my colleagues about the problems that we face and the problems that we need to solve. I love simplification. I love simplifying things for my people in life and work. And that book has played an incredible role in my life to be able to see things differently and be able to simplify them.
Wow. Yeah. So the hard things, it's like, it's a starter Bible. It's like literally a starter Bible. Yeah. It's like divided into sections. You can open it up. You have an issue, deal with it, look at it inside that. But the other ones I never looked at. In brief history of time. Check it out. Yeah.
Yes, so please.
Who is your favorite entrepreneur, or I guess favorite Indian entrepreneur?
Indian entrepreneur.
Yeah. For every entrepreneur,
If
everyone
I
say,
name one, I'll disappoint the remaining. Um, I unfortunately.
so let's change it then. Who do you look up to for inspiration, or mentorship and all that? Like, you try to follow.
So many folks. I have at least had the privilege to actually be with most of these guys, talk to them, get advice, when I need it. So many great folks. I mean, I'll just name a few that I get to talk to. Vijay Shekhar is an amazing individual. This is the founder of Paytm, great guy, and I think what he's done, his own story of how he's built the company is absolutely inspiring. Incredible entrepreneur, and I think a lot of people in this country look up to him for the way he's able to change, the whole ecosystem for good. Great guy, and of course, the founders at Flipkart, Ola, Oyo. Incredible entrepreneurs. What they've built is just insanely amazing. But as I said, there are so many great people. As I said, if I started doing a named list, I'll probably run out of space. And some incredible fellow founders and entrepreneurs that I get to talk to. As I said, on a regular basis. So my dose of inspiration comes from everybody in this country who started in the last decade or so and built something really valuable. In that list, I have like 20 odd people that I continue to talk to, and meet very often. Incredible entrepreneurs.
Right. I was gonna, we don't want to miss. You don't want to miss somebody, because next thing you know, you'll get a text from somebody. Hey, why didn't you mention me? I gave you that advice. Wow.
I'll apologize to them one-on-one and meet them again.
You'll send them a beer or lunch.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing that you have this this brotherhood between all the like all the entrepreneurs that started in the past decade, especially the early ones. You're part of the earlier pioneers. You started in 2011 before the entrepreneurship became such a hip, cool thing that everybody in college wants to do. So it's cool, really amazing. You have this brotherhood between the early founders that have built amazing companies, and you guys are there for each other in the way of support, knowledge, mentorship, and everything. So let me ask you, if an entrepreneur, either like someone that has a company, someone that wants to start a company, if someone who wants to pick your brain, someone who wants your knowledge, your advice, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Oh, okay. Yes, I do help. I do help founders in all ways that I can. Some I very proactively get also involved with, as I said, in terms of whatever value I can bring to them. Between me and Ankit, we also did a few small angel investments early on in some businesses. So we do help in whatever ways that we can. I personally love to sit with founders, help them shape their ideas, help them with their go-to-market. As long as I understand the business and as long as I know what they're up to, wherever I have my own sort of learnings to share. Best way is to reach out to me on email. I invariably always respond. It's my first name @gmail.com. I am sort of active on Twitter. I try and spend a few minutes almost every day trying to gather and learn from other people in terms of what they're doing. People can reach out to me there as well. It's my handle is my first name there, Avlesh. I think between these two, as long as you've reached out to me, it's just a matter of time. But I definitely respond.
Right. Wow, that's very, very, very generous of you. Especially giving out your personal email address, it's amazing. Wow. Avlesh,
we all need to pay back. Yes.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
There's so many more questions I have, but you're a busy man and you have so much you have to do. So first of all, this has been absolutely amazing, incredible. You inspired me a tremendous amount. Now I know you put my journey in a little bit more, structured pathway. This was raw. This was passionate. This was emotional. This was incredible. The amount, not just me, but the amount of people that you're going to affect through this. And, more people are going to join the bandwagon of WebEngage in that passion and the culture you have. So thank you so much for your time. And listen, if there's anything I can do for WebEngage, for you, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm always available, always here for you, buddy. Thank you so much.
I said this earlier too. You probably described me in the nicest possible way in so many years. So thanks to you. This is I'm so glad that I could be of any help that I can be of. And it's very generous of you to offer help. Thank you so much. I definitely will reach out to you. And I wish you all the very best. You're doing an incredible job. It's very important that all these learnings and mistakes we do as entrepreneurs, the fellow ones and the newer ones, they don't need to make the same set of mistakes. And playing that role of relaying this message to so many people out there so that they don't commit the same set of mistakes that we did as entrepreneurs early on is an incredible job to do. And deep respect and you're doing wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this, and happy to be of any help that I can be of.
Thank you. Just have a great day, and thank you very, very much.
You too, Ephraim. Thank you.